if the valve doesn't close and get out of the way of the piston as it comes up on that compression stroke, they can contact and cause damage. Hey guys, welcome back. Steve here with 6-Star Automotive. Today I'm going to talk about something that's very important if your vehicle has one. There's still about 50% of cars on the road that still have these. If you like this video, I've got many more like it and many more to come. So like, subscribe, and join me as we talk about timing belts. So what is a timing belt and what does it even do? So a timing belt is a neoprene or urethane belt. Let's back up a little bit. So in order for an internal combustion engine to work, you've got the crankshaft and you've got camshafts. You've probably heard those terms before. The problem is that because the crankshaft holds the pistons that go, there's so much complication to talk about with these. Let's try to keep this simple. I'm not going to go over the history of engines with valves used to be inside the block and flathead, overhead cam, underhead. I mean, goodness, there's way too much to go into with that. But pretty much any engine you see nowadays are going to be an overhead cam design, and they're going to have something connecting the camshaft and the crankshafts together. And that's the purpose of the timing belt. We'll go over timing chains in a little bit. So you have your crankshaft that connects to your pistons, and you have your camshaft that has lobes on it that push on the valves. In order for this to function, the air has to be able to come in, the fuel has to be able to come in, it has to stop that air and fuel to create compression, then the piston has to come up at the right time. The timing of the mechanical components inside the engine has to be just right. If the valve doesn't close and get out of the way of the piston as it comes up on that compression stroke, they can contact and cause damage. All of this stuff has to be very precisely timed, and it runs very, very fast. So it has to be perfect. So the timing belt has to have a very specific length and an exact number of teeth in order for this to function properly. This is different for pretty much every application. So as you can see here, the pistons are going up and down, the compression events are happening, the valves are opening and closing because of the lobes like they're supposed to. But what happens if this thing fails? What happens is this belt can snap. When that happens, the engine doesn't necessarily stop moving. So the valve train will stop, but the pistons won't, and then you can have contact. And that is catastrophic. You do not want that to happen. So as a general rule, timing belts are replaced around 80 to 100,000 miles, or because it's rubber, based on time. We used to recommend 10 years, but I found that a fair amount of manufacturers have actually lowered that to about 7 years. So that's kind of a recommendation now. You know, again, as with everything else that I recommend, you can kind of do whatever you want. I don't like to gamble, and I definitely don't like to gamble with other people's stuff. So that's why I make that recommendation, is I'd rather have you safe and not have catastrophic engine damage than to just replace the timing belt. So what other parts or components should be replaced with the timing belt? It's a fantastic question. So let's take a look at what's involved. So we're going to zoom into the engine. We're going to have to remove the drive belt and the drive belt accessories, the timing cover itself, to access the timing components. Let's pause that. So inside the timing cover, you're going to have a tensioner assembly, an idler generally speaking, and then water pump most of the time. So as I was coming up, there was a way of recommending timing belts that was giving people the price of just replacing the belt itself. But anyone with common sense is going to know, hey, all that labor that's necessary to get in there and remove that timing belt, is there anything else that we can do while we're in there so that we don't have to be in there again? The timing belt is a wear item, but so is everything else that's in here. These are all just little bearings. And the water pump has bearings in it too, and it also has seals that can leak and seep and cause issues inside the timing cover, and then contamination of the next belt. So rather than deal with any of that stuff, I would tell you the price of replacing all of this. I'm going to take care of you like I take care of anyone else that I really care for. So what we're going to do at 6-Star is get an OEM kit, so ASIN, something of the like, that is going to have all these components in it that are from the same manufacturer that the dealer put in originally. So last question, does every car have a timing belt? Most of the cars nowadays have timing chains, which is kind of ironic that back before the 70s, every car had a timing chain, and then from the 70s to the 90s, a lot of cars went to timing belts. So manufacturers did this for a couple of reasons. You've got cost saving, quieter operation, and simplicity. So if you look at the way that this is designed, all of this stuff where the timing belt is, it doesn't have to be built into the engine itself. You can't have a metal chain like this just running dry. It has to be lubricated. These guys can run dry, so there's a lot less complexity when it comes to designing something like this than it does to designing this encased in oil and lubricant and with oil squirters and all kinds of stuff in there to kind of make that function. So they went to a design like this. They were also quiet, so these things don't have that rattle on startup that you can get on a timing chain engine. We'll get to that in a second as well. The downsides, however, of having a timing belt are obviously limited lifespan. I mean, it is a rubber belt after all, so eventually it will fail. I mean, it's just a matter of time and use. If that belt does break, the potential for internal engine damage is very, very high. Pretty much all manufacturers gone back to a timing chain design. I think durability is probably the number one thing. You know, people like to have cars that are more durable and longer lasting. You know, a timing belt is not going to last forever. A timing chain technically should last the life of the vehicle. With a timing chain, all of your maintenance matters. With the engine, especially your oil changes, because the timing belt is basically kept safe by the engine's oil. The timing belt tensioners work off of oil pressure. So everything in that system is very, very reliant to the oil in your car. You can end up having catastrophic engine damage just because you didn't change your oil. That really doesn't happen with a timing belt. So that's all I got for this one today, guys. Thank you so much for watching these. Please share them with your friends and family. And if you'd like, you can come by. My guys can show you these videos and the 6-star difference in person. Back up some. Turn it up some.